Okay, this video, as it says, is solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. And there'll be a very clear indicator to you in an exam when to use the formula, because it will say round your answer to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places or 3 significant figures. So when you factorize, which is put the quadratic into brackets, there's an exact answer. But when you use a quadratic formula, you'll probably get an unpleasant answer that needs rounding off. So when it's telling you to round off your answer, it's really telling you to use the quadratic formula. So here is the quadratic formula. And it looks rather nasty, but that actually is in the front of your exam paper. So you don't have to memorize it, but you do know how you do have to use it accurately, and just be very careful of 1 or 2 pitfalls. So that's a formula, but what does it mean? Well, A is the coefficient, which means the number of x squared in the equation. B is the number of x's, or the coefficient of x in the equation. And C is the constant, the number at the end. So let's see how we apply those values into our formula with an example. So in this example, and I would always recommend that you explicitly write down before you start, A equals this, B equals that, C equals the other. So A is the number of x squared. In this example, that would be 1. B is the number of x. The subtract in front of the 4x is vital, so B is -4. And then C, the constant, that is -1. So those are our 3 values for A, B, and C. Now carefully put them into the formula. So there's the formula. And let's see what happens when we're substituting. First of all, minus B. Well, B is -4 to begin with, so the negative of that makes +4. Just be careful putting your value of B in. Plus or minus, I'll explain what that means a little bit later on. Then in the formula, B squared is -4 squared. Now, for lots of you, when you work out -4 and square it on your calculator, it gives -16. But we need to be clear and sensible about this. A negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. So whenever you square a number, even if it's a negative, you always get a positive answer. So -4 squared is 16. Then it's subtract 4 times A, which is 1, and then times by C, which is -1. So I would always write that out in exactly the form that you see, with your values substituted in. The other thing to note, when it's divide by, the divide goes across everything. Lots of students forget to put the divide by underneath the B part and make a mistake. You are dividing everything by 2A. So, simplify. When I simplify, let's look inside the square root. Let's be careful here with these negatives. 4 times 1 is 1, times -1 is -4. So those 3 numbers multiplied together make -4. I'm subtracting -4, so that's +4. So that's 16 plus 4, that gives me 20 in the square root. So now I've simplified it down to this. Now, the plus or minus means it's 4 plus root 20 over 2. That's one possible answer. Or a second possible answer is 4 subtract root 20 over 2. And you need both answers. So 4 plus root 20, all divided by 2, all divided by 2 is 2 plus root 5. And 4 subtract root 20, all divided by 2 is 2 subtract root 5. So just make sure you check, input that into your calculator and check that you get those two answers. And that's what the plus or minus means, two possible answers. Okay, plus root 5 or subtract root 5. Here now is example 2, and once again write out to begin with the values of A, B and C. So A is 3, B is positive 2 and C is negative 7. Carefully substitute those values into the formula, and let's see the detail here. Negative B, B is 2, so negative B is negative 2. Plus or minus B squared is 4, and then it's subtract 4 times 3 times negative 7. 4 times 3 times negative 7 over 2 lots of A, 2 lots of 3 in the denominator. Note the divide by is divide by the whole of the numerator, and also to look out for when the square root bit, you are square rooting the whole of this, okay, the whole of this. So we work out, to simplify, I would recommend working that out separately and simplifying it on the next line, and that's what you get. So let's see where we get 88 from. 4 times 3 is 12, times negative 7 is negative 84, and I'm subtracting that, so subtracting negative 84 is the same as adding 84, and I'm adding 84 to that 4, and that's where I get my 88 from. And then that will separate out into those two separate answers. Here's example 3. Once again, let's write down those values of A, B and C. Carefully substitute them into the formula. That's what we end up with. Let's simplify inside the square root. And then our calculators, just carefully input your answers in, and those are the two answers that you should get. Okay, so the formulas on the exam for you, you just need to be careful and take your time and just don't make any false steps.